Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm Gabe Teran, a resident of the city of Oxnard, and I'm going to be updating you all on a video I did a number of weeks ago regarding the District 2 vacancy that exists in the city of Oxnard City Council. Carmen Ramirez was elected to be the County Supervisor for District 5, so that means that she's leaving the Oxnard City Council to do that role. And so now there is a vacancy for her seat overseeing District 2 within the City Council. So, as I mentioned in my last video, there are a couple of options that the city council is given when they have a vacancy on the council. I'll go over those in a second, but I found that in the release of today's staff report for the January 5th city council meeting where they'll be discussing this, there's now a third option that they're given as well. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at these and go over them real quickly. So just as a really quick thing here, the city council timeline for a vacancy, you can see here, as I had mentioned before, when a vacancy happens, which as of, according to this, is going to be January 5th, they have 60 days to make a decision on what they're going to do. But you can see how the timeline looks here, where if they were to go with an appointment, well, regardless, they have to make a decision in 60 days. What are they going to do? Option one or option two, right? Well, they can make the appointment at any time that they decide, okay, this is what we're going to do. Or if they decide option two, we're going to do a special election, well, there are elections codes that are very specific about when that can happen. And the elections code reads that the calling of a special election for this kind of a vacancy, the election cannot happen any sooner than 114 days from the date of the vacancy. So there are two elections coming up in the state of California this year, one in March and one in November. Because the March date falls within the 114 days, meaning 114 days has not yet passed, then according to elections code, they cannot use that date as their special election date. So the next date in California where an election will be held in 2021 would be on November the 2nd. So we would have to wait until November the 2nd in order to hold the special election. So looking a little bit more in detail here for option one, you can see that making an appointment, the idea is do an application process where anyone who is eligible to run for the office and lives in District 2 is going to be able to submit an application to fill that seat. And you can see here, if they were to do that, the applications might be accepted between January 6th and January 20th. So they'd get about 14 days to complete the application. Then, tentatively, if they decided to go this route, on Thursday, February 4th, there would be a special city council meeting where those who had applied would participate in a public interview process, which is an open council meeting, and there's a vote on the person who is going to be appointed. Now, because this is a special meeting, that allows the residents of the city of Oxnard to be able to voice their opinion on any of the candidates or any questions that should be had, or any priority areas that they feel the candidates should be aware of. If we look at option two, this is the timeline that is specific to the special election. And so that person who is elected to fill the seat in a special election will be seated for about a year until they have to run again for the end of Carmen Ramirez's term, which will be in November 2022. And another thing that was mentioned in the staff report is that if we hold the special election on November 2nd, 2021, the county elections department estimates that it would be $90,000 for the city of Oxnard to hold that election for only District 2 voters to vote in that election. So that's another thing to keep in mind as well. I mentioned option three. So let's talk about option three a little bit here. So option three is that the council can actually enact an ordinance. So what this is saying is that elections code does allow a city council to pass a local ordinance that would help them to fill a vacancy when it happens. And there's a number of things that are called out in the staff report about how that would look or how it would work. But I think the main thing to point out here is that it does also allow for an appointment to be made within the 60 days as called for by elections code. But if they pass the ordinance, it would also allow them to call for a special election anyways in November 2021. Right now with current elections code, they do one or the other. But if they pass a local ordinance, it would allow them to do both. They could appoint someone in February and they could have a special election in November. Now, keep in mind, as I had mentioned with the end of the term in 2022, what this would mean for a candidate for District 2 is that they would have to apply, and if they get the appointment, they would then work about 9 months, and then they would have to run for election again in the special election in November 2021. Then a year later, they would run for election one more time during the regular end of that term in November 2022. And then whoever is elected at that point would serve a full 4-year term. So a lot of stuff going on for anyone who's interested in that position. So the last thing I'm going to mention is something I brought up a little bit in the things that I found out as I've been researching this issue. And I'm glad the staff report calls this out, because for District 2, I live in District 2, and if we decided to go with not adopting an ordinance and we don't appoint somebody and we go with a special election in November 2021, District 2 will not have representation on the regular business that's going to happen anyways in the year 2021. Almost an entire calendar year, no representation for myself and my local residents in District 2. But look at these really important decisions and discussions that are happening this year as well. There's updating the 5-year city council priorities. There's making decisions about appropriations for Measure E. There's looking at the budget for the following year, 2021, 2022. There's going to be discussion about the landfill agreement, approving the parks master plan, discussing the homeless solution center, which is actually in District 2, and also something that's recently come up, which is determining the contract for the ambulance services within the city. So these are just a couple examples, but they're really important discussions and decisions that are going to happen, where if we decide to delay the election and we don't have it until November 2021, there will be no voice for District 2 residents at the table. Now, of course, the other council members certainly serve the entire city and represent everybody. However, their priorities are their districts. And if there's competing priorities between districts, I wouldn't blame them in the least bit to really put a higher priority on what's going on in their district, rather than looking at District 2 and advocating for something that might be more important to those residents. That's not to discount those efforts, but it would make sense that their initial loyalties are to their districts first and foremost, meaning that District 2, again, would have no voice. And what is our democracy besides having a voice and representation for us at the table? So as much as I would like a special election myself, I also think representation is very important. So I hope you can take that into consideration as well, regardless of where you fall on the issue. All right, so that's all of the stuff I wanted to go over. I wanted it to be really quick update for that. If you have any questions, feel free to throw it down in the comments. If you live in District 2, I think it is very, very important for you, if you're hearing my words right now, the city council meeting where they're discussing this is coming up on January 5th, 2021. It's the first meeting of the calendar year. If you live in District 2, please, please, please connect with your city council, connect with all of the city council members, because they'll be deciding, is it an election or is it an appointment? Let them know what your thoughts are on it. All right. So hope you all had some really great information from that. I appreciate the staff report coming out 13 days ahead of time instead of 12 days ahead of time this time. So hope you all have a great evening. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.